Hey, welcome back everybody. So I've been using EZDrummer 2 for a couple years now. It was the first MIDI drum thing that I got back when I started to write my own songs, record my own songs with Reaper. I think it was back in 2017 with my 4-channel audio interface that I had back in the day. And EZDrummer 2 was the first real drum plugin that I had that I used to write all my songs in. And it was pretty decent at the time. The sounds weren't that great, to be honest, out of the box, especially for metal. It was okay, but I didn't know much about drum mixes and decent drum sounds. But if you EQ'd and compressed the whole drum a little bit and the individual tracks, especially the room mics, if you tweaked it a little bit, it would be pretty decent and pretty usable. But since a couple of years ago, I think it was 2022 or somewhere around those time, TuneTrack released EZDrummer 3. And I pretty much immediately switched to that because, well, I've been using EZDrummer 2 for a couple of years now. The next logical step from EZDrummer 2 was EZDrummer 3. And yes, I know Superior Drummer exists, but I never was really a fan of Superior Drummer for a couple of reasons. The first one was Superior Drummer was always much more expensive than EZDrummer and much more complex in terms of user interface, which is not a big deal if you are an experienced music producer. But for me, usually I wanted to have ready to made and just easy interface to just write my songs and move on. I didn't want to mess with every single element of the drum kit. I didn't want to add individual compressors and EQ on the drum kit from the actual software itself. I just wanted to do that with my own plugins. I didn't really care about that feature of Superior Drummer really. So my logical step was to just use EZDrummer. In terms of sounds, I don't know how much difference there is. Honestly, to be honest, I never used Superior Drummer. I just know that they share a lot of extension packs. For example, I used to use Metal Machine, the expansion pack for EZDrummer a lot back in the day, and Metal Machine is available both for EZDrummer and Superior Drummer, as you can see. So there was a lot of these kind of expansion packs back in the day that was cross-platform between these two software. So I never really looked into how different they sound, but judging from how Superior Drummer works, they just have more options for you to tweak the sound. So personally, for my perspective of making music, EZDrummer was always the go-to drum plugin for me. So if you look at the interface, we have the main drum section, we have some MIDI grooves that you can purchase, and we have a grid editor, which is new to EZDrummer 3. There's a mixer and a new feature called Bandmate. Yeah, the interface is pretty easy. If you want to change the snare sound, you just, come here and change your snares. If you want to change your kick, tuning, volume, pretty simple, pretty easy stuff. Not much to it. It doesn't have overly complicated stuff. You have your MIDI grid thingy down here, so you can drag and drop your MIDI files from your groove section over here. And one thing that I briefly mentioned is this grid editor. So if we just click on a MIDI file that we dragged into the bar that's down here, we can actually individually change the notes or all that great stuff. But yeah, EZDrummer 3 is pretty nice and simple. Okay, let's jump into the mix and talk about what I've done with the mix and how you can actually get some decent drum tones out of EZDrummer. And I am using the Into the Dark preset, as you saw in the thumbnail. It's around $90 on Sweetwater. But if you want to use the stock sounds that come with EZDrummer, you can do that. The thing about TuneTrack's samples and TuneTrack's expansion packs are they pretty much sound kind of the same. Like they have different sound out of the box. For example, if I go from this expansion pack, I only have this installed at the moment, but if I go from this to another expansion pack, they sound vastly different. But when you start to mix them down and EQ and compress them, they can sound pretty similar at the end of the day. And okay, let's just jump straight to the mix. This is the song you were hearing in the beginning of this video, and let's just solo the track one by one. So I have a multi-track layout, like I have my snares and kick going to different outs from EZDrummer. So if I just come here and go to mixer, you can see if it's a little bit tiny, but I have the kick going to 1 and 2, snare going to 3 and 4. I think these are just stereo tracks, so I just play it. So yeah, I have my kick going to my 1 and 2 track here. We have kick, snare, and we have hi-hat on 7, toms on that, and so on and so forth. If you don't know how to multi-route your EZDrummer, you basically load it up. I'm using Reaper. There is an option for you. So it asks you, do you want it to be multi-out or do you want it to be a stereo single track? And you select multi-out, then it gives you the option and it automatically routes everything for you, but you have to come here to the mixer panel and I believe you have to click here. And yeah, you have to route outputs to multi-channel and it automatically routes it for you. So that's for that. Okay, let's solo the drums and look at what we've done to the sound. So I am using the Into the Dark expansion pack and I'm using the chunky 80s preset, but I have tweaked it a lot of things on it, so it's not completely stock. So first things first, I usually have a drum crush. So I have a separate track that I send the whole drum master, so the whole drum sound to it. Then I put some distortion and EQ on it, and then I would blend it under the sound of the main drums to give it more punch, more in-your-face sound. It works with live drums too, so if you're struggling to mix live drums, you can do this trick. It's pretty good, but I don't see it in this mix, so I didn't do it. But that's the first thing I will usually do, but apparently this drum kit didn't need it, so I didn't use that. And another thing is I am sending this drum master to a reverb. I have, let's see, it's probably, yes. We have Valhalla Supermassive on the 80s Space Reverb preset, and I usually use some sort of a Valhalla plugin for my reverbs, either the room sound or the plate sound. For this track, I think I was going for like more spacious kind of sound, so I chose Supermassive. So yeah, if we just mute that and listen to the drums. Very chunky, very not too in your face. Like I would usually mix my drums way more spankier and in your face, but this was like a mellower, like old school atmospheric black metal track. But yeah, let's see what I have on my drum master. I have a Expressor Nuke, which is not available anymore on their website. Kiva Audio's website, but you can get it from Visti plugins for free. I would link down below. So I'm basically doing like a parallel compression. As you can see here, I have the mix at 24%. I am compressing heavily, then I'm blending that heavily compressed signal right back into the track. You can do this with separate tracks and such, but I wanted to keep it simple. This is with it, this is without it. Not too much different, just a little bit of spank. If I just turn the mix up, you can hear the effect more. Yeah, just a little bit of spank to the drums. You can, again, split this into another track and do more things. Maybe add a tiny bit of distortion afterwards and a heavy EQ before it to get even more punch out of that. And I have some couple of EQs. First off is this mid scoop that I pretty much nowadays do on drums because I have my guitar mixes nowadays less mid-range heavy and more scooped. So having the drums be also a little bit scooped on the mid-range helps to just keep the guitars on the same space as the drums, and it makes room for the guitars to be present and be heard. And some people like to argue that mixing scooped mids guitars is a pain in the ass, and it is, but you know, if you do stuff like this and if you control your mids on all of your instruments, you can get away with a pretty decent mid scoop sound. I mean, look at how Chuck Linear and the earlier Def albums and earlier Cannibal Corpse albums did it. Like, there are ways you can do it. It doesn't have to be just, oh, mids are bad. Mid scooping is bad. You shouldn't do it. So yeah, I've done that trick in here. So we have a nice scooped mid drum tone without EQ. You can hear the mids just poking at you. And I'm doing a little bit of flow cutting. I believe it was too much and it was interfering with the bass guitar. So yeah, I did that. That was my drum master. So we have EZDrummer 3 and it goes to this drum master and we have this effects here and this is pretty much our whole drum sound. Let's see what else we have on kick. We have a little bit of EQ on kick. Let's just solo the kick. Okay, not much going on. Again, a little bit of mid scoop. This one is a little bit higher mids, 800, and a ton of high end boost to hear that clickiness of the kick. So if you want a clicky kick, that's a tongue twister. You should probably start boosting 4K and 5K in your drums if you want to hear that high end on your kick drums. You can also do smiley face. This is basically called a smiley face EQ. Like boost the lows and boost the highs. So you have a very aggressive low heavy and a high heavy kick. But this drum kit didn't need it, so we have this. And also, again, Expressor Nuke, this one is actually on 100% mix. Okay, a little bit of compression there. Yeah, just to add tons of punch to the kick sound. And Expressor Nuke is basically like a distressor type compressor, but it's just two knobs and it's just way easier to use it on your tracks. But yeah, you can basically use any compressor you want. Some people might argue this is a very, very extreme plugin to use for kick, but I think it sounded nice. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you use, it does matter how it sounds. Let's go to snare. We have a Reaper compressor this time. A little bit of high passing, around 64 hertz to cut the excessive low end, and a little bit of high cut. Yeah, and a 1176 type compressor. This one is one of the Reaper's stock built-in compressors, and this one is becoming pretty much my go-to 1176 plugin, believe it or not. It sounds very aggressive and very much does what I need. Around 1 dB of compression on the snare. You don't need much compression on EZDrummer to get a good metal drum sound. This is the thing about pre-processed drum kits like EZDrummer is you don't have to do much to get a good sound out of these. You don't have to process them too much. So, okay, let's move on. Let's see what else. Okay, we don't have anything else going on the kit. So basically just a little bit of EQ and compression on the snare and the kick and on the drum master. And that's pretty much all you need to get a good, decent drum tone out of EZDrummer or any sort of a pre-mixed, already processed drum plugins. You just need a little bit of things here and there and tweak things to your taste, and you're pretty much ready to go. Let's listen to before and after the stuff that I added to the drum mix and see how that sounds. So again, let's solo the drums. So this is with all the things that I've done, and this is without. So for the guitars, I am using the MRH 810 from Liberty Audio. We are not using L12X like we used to do in the past videos before. Just for the change of pace, I am using a more traditional amp sim, and it's based on a JCM 82210, I believe. So like just Googled it, and this is the head. Yeah, I'm using that. You can see I'm cranking the gain all the way up. No boosts because I just want that raw sound. You can use the tube screamer if you want to tighten things up, but I pretty much liked how it sounds. So let's take a listen to the rhythm guitars, soloed, of course. Also, you hear that? There's a lot of reverb going on. Let's just mute the reverb too. So yeah, that's the main rhythm guitar. There's nothing fancy going on. I have a huge amount of reverb on it. So the same master reverb that I was sending the drums to is being used for the guitars, as you can see here, master guitar. So for the EQ of the guitars, I am using the Tokyo Down Studio TDR Nova. I'm high passing around 120 hertz, which is a pretty standard for me when it comes to black metal. I'm cutting around, 3.8K kilohertz because it was very fizzy. We just bypass this. A lot of fizz going on, so I just cut that out and boosted a little bit of air frequencies, or I guess high treble frequencies, 8.6K, and a lot of low passing around 11K. And nothing too fancy, just low pass, high pass, a little bit of EQ here and there. You don't have to go overboard with EQ when it comes to guitars. When it comes to atmospheric black metal or black metal in general, just you can do whatever the fuck you want. So yeah, that's for the main rhythm guitars. And also we have a lead guitar that is going into the same EQ as before on our master track. Let's listen to that. Same amp as before, a little bit different settings, less bass, and I think more treble. So it just pops out of the mix. TAL chorus, one of my favorite choruses of all time, and Valhalla Delay, also one of my favorites. Yeah, pretty simple, pretty nice. We also have another lead line here, which is one of the more interesting lead lines I have written in a long time, which is quite something. And for the outro sound, which is this. We have a nice crunchy tone, which is provided by L12X and Valhalla Delay for the first one. And the lead part is, again, L12X, Valhalla Delay, a little bit more mix here, and Pro Q to have that cocked wah kind of sound, like filtered, heavily filtered kind of sound. And together, they sound like this. Yeah, pretty nice and simple, not much going on there. Let's move on to bass. So I wrote the bass with MIDI because I don't have actual bass anymore, unfortunately. I'm using an old plugin called Low-Key Bass from Salmon Tones. I think this plugin is not available anymore, and have a compressor on it. And again, the same compressor that I was using on drums. I believe I'm compressing it pretty heavily. Yeah, we have a limiter. So the bass MIDI that I'm using has a lot of dynamic range and a lot of peaks and highs. So I wanted to basically tame that and keep it under control. So I'm using a compressor and a limiter at the same time. Then we have EQ, and we are cutting a lot of mid-range out, so it's nice and scoop. I didn't want the bass to just interfere with the main guitars, so that's why I'm doing that. Many bass players might cringe. That's just how I do it in my own mixes. Feel free to leave through the nasty comments down below. That's pretty much does it for the bass. We don't have any vocal tracks, although we do have a actual track called vocal here. Then we have a synth. Very soft, very mellow sounding synth, and the way I achieved that was with the Roland's Jupiter 8, and the preset that I used was JP Softbed. And yet again, extra nuke. Heavy, very, very heavy amounts of compression and a lot of EQ. So I am high passing around 383 hertz. And also we have a lot of high-end boosts. We probably don't need this. We can just boost the volume, but I did it anyways. And yeah, that's the whole mix. And I'm also sending the synth to the master reverb that we had before, the Valhalla Supermassive. And lastly, on our master track, we have the Tokyo Down Studio mastering compressor. This is the free version. Around 2 decibels of gain reduction. And if you want a more linear sounding, more mellower sounding mastering compressor, I suggest you use like a SSL type compressor. This compressor, in my opinion, has a lot of attack and it adds a lot of character to your mix. And we have our first limiter, Reaper's stock limiter. Then we have another one, Pro L from FabFilter. It is actually peaking around -9 LUFS or LUFS, however you want to call it, but I turned down the gain or the output level so I don't clip my OBS session. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this was a longer video for me, and I went to the depths of how you can make, first of all, how you can use EZDrummer 3 in your black metal songs or any other subgenres of black metal or metal in general. If you're interested, you can just, use this video for that. Yeah, hope it was helpful to you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave rude, nasty comments down below. Leave your suggestions. And sorry for the delay for the past few months. I was busy with a lot of stuff in my life. But yeah, hope you guys are doing well. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.